when you look up transhumanism on YouTube or other places, there's a pretty bleak view about it, it seems to me.
Yes.
I was expecting there to be this kind of celebratory feel about it, but it seems like the common man is anticipating what you're talking about, this elite group of people imposing it upon the rest of us.
Right.
Do you agree with that assessment, or do you think there's a growing movement of people who are willing to adopt transhumanism? Or, third option, are we all imbibing the transhumanist philosophy without even realizing it with our smartphones and smartwatches and things, until one day we're just sort of, it's just is what it is?
Yes, so I think there are definitely people out there who are afraid of these ideas. I think that there are legitimate reasons for concern. I mean, what I just described is definitely concerning and is already taking place and needs to be stopped and halted, right? And so there are areas that are very negative and bleak. The projects of digital immortality, I think, are ultimately philosophically impossible because we cannot abandon an essential element of humanity, namely animality.
According to you, it's essential, right? According to you, it's essential.
Right. Yeah. We could set that aside to prolong humanity, but that's a whole philosophical debate and conversation. But I think that beyond the small number of people who have either adopted these ideas or have thought seriously in critiquing them, there is a large group, as you correctly described, who are just sort of being prepared for these ideas and who are already, in a sense, sympathetic to the idea. I mean, hey, all of us live a much more disembodied existence than we did, say, a decade ago. I mean, we live our digital lives. We're living a digital life right now with our viewers. We're going to spend time on our phones later. Some people are really immersed in video gaming. Others are immersed in film or YouTube, whatever it may be, right? We live a more disembodied experience. We have so many relationships primarily through text rather than face-to-face conversations. You think of how Zoom meetings are replacing in-person meetings, all of the conversations in business about, hey, wouldn't it be a lot more cost-efficient to reduce the office time and so forth? And, wouldn't that be a better, more productive way of working? And so there are all these ways in which we are living a more disembodied experience. And hey, that makes it a lot more credible and believable to say, maybe we could just go further. Maybe I could cast off this microphone, or I could cast off this body of mine that is just getting more frail and weak and limiting. So I think we're being trained. We're always trained by our technological use. And I don't say this to scare us or to send people onto the streets to smash their phones, but you're being trained. So be aware. And I just want to come back to a point when we're describing the her situation, and we're describing how more and more people today are already having these kind of intimate, even romantic relationships with AI systems, their digital devices, and how that's only going to skyrocket in the future. Well, first we can say, okay, that's weird. And we can say, that's bad. But we can't leave it there. We need to help people find the real, meaningful, embodied relationships that they hunger for and that they crave. Look, if a person is having a friendship or is romantically involved with an AI system, then something is not being filled in that person's heart. And rather than just dismiss him or her as a weirdo, how about forming a friendship and helping that individual? Because that person pretty much craves the same thing that you and I crave, Matt, to love and be loved. Certainly at the divine level of our relationship with God, but also in our friendships and our families and our community. And so I think that we all need to step back and say, hey, we're living a very disembodied existence, and some of these tools are helping us do wonderful things. It's helping us spread Pints with Aquinas, and it's helping us to spread all of this great teaching of the church. And I'm part of a scholarly advisory board for Magisterium AI, which is a generative AI system so people can chat with the magisterium and get their questions answered accurately is our idea without hallucinations. So these tools can be helpful, but we all need to step back and say, look, this disembodied experience is forming me, and I need to make sure that these are aids and never ever replacements for the real deal.
But what if I say to you
face
that,
to face?
What if I argue that that's not possible? Like it's going to come to a point, and maybe we're already there, where you are not using your tool as much as your tool is using you. You can pretend to because you like the idea of being autonomous,
Right?
But I mean, how many people say that they're not a slave to their phones, but you look at them for any given period of time, and it very much seems that they are.
Right.
So I know that inanimate objects can't be intelligent, but it seems like they have mastery over us. These things that were meant to serve us. I mean, we all realize that. Do have mastery over us. So at what point can we say the nice things like that about, just don't get carried away? And when it's like, it's too late. It's way too late for that. We're all carried away. And then I wonder, at what point are we going to see a kind of silent revolution where it might be a good idea for people to go into the streets and smash their phones and computers and to begin live in human communities? And those human communities will end up looking as barbarous as did the protagonist in Brave New World at the end. Do you remember?
Right. Yeah, I mean, it may perhaps get to that point where we need these more radical, dramatic actions.
And I wonder where that line is. Like, at what point do you realize, it's too far, the Amish were right, or whoever?
Well, I think already now what we have to do is be more radically honest with ourselves. Like, you're right to say that there are moments in our own lives where we're already controlled by our devices. And it's not enough just to say, I'm going to make sure my screen time is at a certain number of minutes, right? Because it's not just the timing, it's the way in which even the phone's presence, it beckons, it calls, it's there, I'm thinking about it. And then on my more disciplined days, I'm thinking about how I shouldn't be thinking about it, and I'm wasting time and energy on that. So we do have to think more seriously about radical discipline, right? Like, I mean, recently I was giving spiritual direction to someone, and I just mentioned to him, and I found that it's very helpful that I begin my day with a holy hour of personal prayer in silence, and I find it very helpful to enter into that holy hour because I turn off the phone. I don't just silence the phone, I turn off the phone and I put it to sleep.
Radical idea.
Yeah. It's like, it seems pretty simple to me. And I carry around this like old dumb phone that I just use as an alarm. So if I need an alarm, I have the alarm and I don't have to depend on the phone, because that way I'm not tempted to look at all the notifications that will just create a lot of anxiety about all the things I need to do and address. And I'm not even using energy to not look at the notifications. I'm just not even thinking about it. And I can enter more easily into prayer. Like, very simple practice, but it's like, wow, I never thought of that. Like, and I mean, many people have never thought about that. Is a very intelligent man. He's like, I've never really considered that. I'm going to buy an alarm clock today and I'm going to do that, right? Like, those simple practices that maybe for some people seem kind of extreme, like, I need the phone all the time. What if there's an emergency? What if someone needs to get to me? Those sorts of practices in our life are key already. And we probably need more. Like, we need more parameters. We need more discipline for freedom, right? It's not to punish ourselves. It's discipline for freedom, for joy, so that we can really use these. Because I'm definitely not of the technology is just completely neutral school, right? Like, there are intelligent human beings who make this technology, right? And we've seen more recently that there are a lot of attorney generals now from different states across the political spectrum who are joining together and filing suits against Meta and companies like this to say, you created knowingly products that have enticed and ensnared minors. In this case, I mean, they're pretty good at doing it with adults, but in this case, the focus was on minors. And you knew what you were doing, and you purposely preyed on their vulnerabilities, and you've created this situation of greater anxiety and depression and envy and worry and self-loathing, and you've created notification systems that are affecting negatively their sleep, and you knew what you were doing, and it was good for your business model, and therefore we're taking steps against you, right? So, I mean, it's just one concrete example and reminder that while these are inanimate objects and tools, they're created by intelligent human beings, and some of the most intelligent in the world who have a specific business model and are not so much interested in your vibrant, virtuous, flourishing life as in your connection and your engagement and the amount of ads that you're seeing and the products that you're consuming. So we do need to be aware that we're we're up against that, and that we do need to introduce more radical discipline and distance into our lives so that we have space to cultivate what we love most. Like if I have a deep, meaningful relationship with God, with my family, with my friends, with people in my community, then I'm going to be less inclined to seek out a surrogate, a replacement in my Snapchat chatbot or in a sex bot, brothel, or whatever it may be. And so I think that we need to do all we can to cultivate the art of living, like to recover maybe some things we've forgotten, and to re-embrace our animality, to re-embrace what it means to be an embodied creature. Yeah, let's continue to cultivate our intellectual, our spiritual lives, but that's always an embodied life. So sports and dance and prayer and ritual and face-to-face conversation are all really beautiful, meaningful practices that for most of humanity we kind of entered into without too much thought, that now perhaps we need to more consciously choose and prioritize so that we have a greater freedom and strength and joy in our lives that make these other items seem less interesting. I think that's part of the key, that our technology should often be much less interesting than the people we're with and the relationships we're having. So it's certainly a challenging time. There are lots of challenges and difficulties to face, but I think we also need to focus in on these opportunities to help cultivate these relationships. And hey, if the church is really what she says she is, if she's a master of humanity and she knows the meaning and purpose of our lives, and she knows what virtue is about, she knows the goal of our existence, then she should be there on the forefront of helping people enter into a much richer life, a happier life, a more fulfilling life. Again, I don't know in the future what sort of disciplines will be needed when we're going to be smashing our phones or our computers or our virtual reality systems or whatever that may be.
It'll begin with the hipsters. There'll be a backlash in small communities of people. You're already seeing it, right? Who are getting back to the land, this kind of idea.
Right.
Hey, thank you so much for watching. Before you go, do us a favor, leave a comment, let us know what you thought of the video, like, and subscribe.